Yes, it's true that Mark Levin is the fastest growing radio show in America. The Mark Levin Show is on at 877-381-3811.
You know, the Democrats are out of the closet now. Their Marxist and neo-Marxist roots are showing. Look at this guy, Thomas Friedman. Thomas Friedman, over the years, has praised one-party autocratic rule in communist China because they get things done. Yet he claims to support democracy. The Democrats talk democracy and practice autocracy. They talk democracy and they practice autocracy, just like their Marxist forebears. Yes, they're the progeny of the Marxist ideology. The progressives are. And I can prove that to anybody who seeks to challenge it. John Dewey and the others used to praise Marx. In fact, John Dewey praised Stalin in Russia. He took a trip there, and then in December, I think it was December 5th, give or take, 1928, he wrote a piece in the New Republic praising them. The collectivism and the collectivism of thought. He needed unity. And he was very critical of the peasants and their little tract of land, and they wouldn't surrender it. And 4 years later, Stalin sent his military into Ukraine, cut it off because of the peasants. They wouldn't surrender their little tracts of land. And he slaughtered them through genocide, starvation. See, these progressives, their ideology has consequences. It's the progressives and the Democrat Party and their teachers' union that have set back your children in public education for at least a year in significant and gross ways. The science didn't support what they did, but they did it anyway. It's the progressives and the Democrats that are implementing policies that have nothing to do with science. The HHS secretary, a doctor himself who has access to all the science, said there's no evidence to support the closing of outside dining, and yet that's exactly what the governor of California and others have done. There was no evidence to support, fact contrary, putting people with the Chinese virus in the nursing homes, that would be safe. Quite the contrary, it killed people. And they tell us to follow the science. Okay, let's follow the science. What's abortion? It's a choice, Mark. Oh, all of a sudden we abandon the science. We abandon the science. These people are full of crap, and they're full of an insatiable appetite for power. And when you look at Thomas Friedman, he and his ilk are the tip of the iceberg. They're the tip of the iceberg. Count every vote, they say, as long as they can fix the system, and I mean that in a negative way, so that certain people are voting that maybe shouldn't vote, or certain voting conditions exist that shouldn't exist. And if they don't get the outcome they like, what do? What'd they do to Donald Trump? What'd they do to Ronald Reagan? What'd they do to Richard Nixon? Who didn't do anything compared to Franklin Roosevelt and Lyndon Johnson and even John Kennedy. If you want to know the truth, the coronavirus didn't ruin education. The government ruined education. The mayors, the governors, the teachers' unions, the Democrats. You have certain governors, like Newsom now, who are exercising powers as if they're running North Korea or Cuba or Venezuela. You have these science fascists all over TV who run these massive bureaucracies who are heralded as experts. Experts. Tonight you're hearing over and over again the massive increase in coronavirus cases. The massive increases. This country has been following, the vast majority of us have been following the guidelines that have been put out by these so-called experts in our government. They have failed us. They have failed us miserably because they don't know what the hell they're doing. And then they blame us. They blame tonight Rudy Giuliani. This is what they do with a compliant press. And yet Donald Trump, who saw through all this crap, he's the one that pushed this same bureaucracy to work with corporate America to come up with therapeutics and vaccines. And that's what's going to save us. Therapeutics and vaccines. Not masks, not gloves. But I want you to think about a couple things. On the radical left, which is represented by websites like Mediaite, Media Matters, Huffington Post, The Daily Beast, Slate, Salon, whatever, all these sites and big media, which has turned hard left, they believe in the regressive policies that make America weaker, that make Americans poorer. They oppose energy independence. How many times did you hear Obama and his ilk say, we're 5% of the population and have 25% of the world's wealth? Meanwhile, look how filthy rich he is from doing nothing, from smiling and saying stupid things. They want us poorer. They want us less independent because they have plans for us. And we can't be too successful. We can't be exercising our free will. We can't be self-motivated. Look at the base of the Democrat Party. With exceptions, of course, but the base of the Democrat Party is built on what? Redistribution of wealth. Welfare for the rich, the poor, and the middle class. The base of the Democrat Party is not built on American principles. They reject it. Look in the streets and so forth at what took place this summer. And now our voting system is collapsing. It's collapsing, and the Supreme Court needs to help. They have their eyes on the Supreme Court. They want to destroy the Supreme Court. Will the Supreme Court support the Constitution or not? By the way, can I tell you all a little secret? And I'm not supporting this. Hello! I want to tell you all a little secret. If, God forbid, but it's possible, the two radicals, and they are as radical, kook, unhinged as they come, the two Democrats running for the Senate in Georgia, and lying through their teeth about who they are. Lying through their teeth. My dad was a small businessman. That's fine. But you're a radical Marxist anti-Semite. Whatever your dad was, he was. But that's you. Anyway. I want you to listen to this. This is just interesting. It's not going to happen. If there's a dispute over electors when Congress meets on January 6th, the Senate can determine in the end who the vice president is, and the House in the end can determine who the president is by the vote of the delegations. Each delegation gets one vote. The problem is, and I think Mo Brooks needs to understand this, I'm not opposed to fighting it out on the floor of the Senate, particularly over the Pennsylvania electors. Not opposed at all. I'll get to that in a minute. But you got to get to the point where you can get it to the floor with a vote, and that takes a majority in the House. We don't have a majority. We came very, very close. And ultimately, that's why I was pushing hard for us to win the House. But let's say, listen to this, Mr. Producer. Let's say, God forbid, the Democrats win those two seats in Georgia. That means it's 50-50 in the Senate, correct? Who's the tie-breaking vote? Until January 20th, it's Mike Pence. You see, Kamala Harris isn't sworn in until January 20th. It's Mike Pence. Theoretically, not only would it never happen, but the Republicans would never stand in line for this. The Democrats would do this. Theoretically, the Republicans could vote 50 for Pence to be vice president, and then the tiebreaker in the vote is who, Mr. Producer? Mike Pence. It's January 6th. It's a new Congress, but it's not a new administration. I just thought I'd point that out to you just to drive the crazies crazier than they are on the left. Does anybody know why we have an electoral college? Hopefully the Supreme Court knows why. We have an electoral college for exactly the reasons that we need one today. For exactly the reasons of what took place in the state of Pennsylvania and some of these other states. So after all the votes are cast and all the battles are over, it arrives in Congress. We have an electoral college. So in the end, Congress can sort things out. It's not a rubber stamp. So when you hear House members and senators running for the Hill, oh, we would never do that. Oh, we'd never do that. They have a job to do. The United States Supreme Court has a job to do, too, since the days of Chief Justice Marshall. They have a job to do, too, and not just sit on the sidelines and wait for the next cultural case to come up where they can attack people of faith in 5-4 votes. They have a job to do, too, and it's such a crucial matter. They need to draw a line now, like they did with the Florida Supreme Court, and say, no, boys and girls, that's not how we do it here. Otherwise, this whole thing's going to be out of control. So the Supreme Court has a job to do, and the Electoral College is there for a reason. And no, the mob doesn't get to rule. The Democrats want the mob to rule, but when they lose elections, they want the iron fist. Why? Because they're in so many ways totalitarians. That's what they are. When's the last time, other than abortion, they talked about choice? Healthcare choice, real choice. School choice. They hate it, all of it. They hated all of it. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.